Hey dudes and dudettes, for today's Nostalgia Fix, I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 being the best retro gaming console. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this video has not been scripted, it's completely off the cuff, so I'm just going to try to formulate some thoughts around why I think this is going to be such a good retro console. Now, I know there's a lot of talk right now about the pricing and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that. That's for a separate topic for another day. I still think the pricing for the retro games is going to be decent. That's my belief anyway. But let's talk about what some of the implications are for this console. Now, we saw the Gamecube titles being released on Nintendo Switch Online, and I think this is a great sign of things to come. As you know, on the Switch 1, we had to wait quite a while before the Nintendo 64 titles, and I think kind of out of left field, the Sega Genesis titles, right? Or the Mega Drive if you're in Europe. Those coming out was a little bit of a shock to some people. Now, it kind of ended there, but I think what that means for Switch 2 is if we're getting GameCube titles already, what if we would get like Sega Saturn titles or Sega Dreamcast titles, or maybe even a different console? Wouldn't it be wild if we got like TurboGrafx or, 3DO? I doubt it, but wouldn't that be interesting? So there's a lot of potentiality here. There's a lot of things that could happen, and I'm really excited for that. Not to mention, and I think what we're going to see is the backlog, the eShop of all of those older titles, right? All the old arcade games, the Hamster titles, the Konami bundles, the Capcom bundles, just so many hundreds and hundreds of arcade games and retro games that are already there coming over to the Switch 2. I think that's what's going to happen. They might have some compatibility issues, maybe. I did see some chatter about that online, about some older titles not working so well on the Switch 2, and maybe they're going to iron that out. I hope they do. But I think, and I'm going to use this as a general statement, I think gaming on a system that has support, some money behind it, for retro games is a better experience than just standard emulation. So you could get on Amazon today and pick up a handheld portable. There's hundreds of them, right? With all different kinds of names. Let's just say like Retrobit, right? You get a Retrobit, you throw in some ROMs, and you're good to go. Is your experience going to be great? Well, I guess it just depends on the ROM. It depends on the emulation, depends on how it handles it. It can be a really mixed bag. The same can be said about some titles that are paid for, some retro titles, but generally speaking, developers have gone through these things. They've ironed out the kinks. They've tested things because there's money behind it, right? And no one's going to pay for something that just doesn't work or has a really sloppy frame rate. Again, I'm speaking in general terms. I know there's always exceptions to this. But I just find that the game experience on a console that has a little bit of money behind it, a little bit of thought, is a better experience. And that's why I think that the Switch 2 is going to be the best retro gaming console that's licensed, right? Anything can change, right? And the dust still needs to settle a bit on the whole Switch 2 dealio. But I'm excited for the possibilities, to say the least. Now, again, some of the first party titles and stuff like that, they're really pricey, right? And there's a lot of feelings and thoughts behind that. I'm still excited for things like Metroid Prime 4 and the new Donkey Kong game and Mario Kart. Remains to be seen if they're going to keep those high prices or if they're going to lower them, or, who knows what, right? A digital sale, we'll find out. I'm not so concerned about that as a nostalgia channel. I'm just excited for all the retro games that are going to be coming to the Switch 2, and I think there's going to be a ton. And adding that to the Switch 1 library, I think we're probably going to see the biggest collection of licensed retro games in one console that we've ever seen, to be honest. I think that could very much be what this is. And so, yeah, I think the Switch 2 could be the very best retro game system so far. Let me know what you think in the comments. And with that, have a totally awesome day.
That was some seriously good nostalgia. But remember, friends, it's also important to make new memories with your loved ones.
Do, 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 do.